All right. Hey, everyone. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. Loki's, of course, excited because he saw that I got him a treat and he is just looking at the treat, not me. But Bitcoin's booming. Things looking pretty good. I think my internet is back up to par, so we're going to see how this works out. I think because I've been uploading so many videos a day, my internet service has not liked that, so they intentionally throttled my internet. So I'm waiting to see if that's the case. So I will not be uploading any videos today. I've uploaded one, but for another channel. So we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck here. So let's give Loki a treat. Hey, Razvan, happy to see my man. GT, Elijah, hopefully you guys are all having a very good day here because your altcoins are going up. We're going to be taking a look at our portfolio. And because obviously I'm streaming right now, I think I'm going to stream from 12 to 1:30 here, an hour and a half, because I have another meeting at 2. I'm going to stream for an hour and a half, and then at 4 o'clock, we're going to be back to streaming some more until maybe at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then I'll also be smoking some cigars with you. I'll probably even smoke a cigar with you guys right now because it just happens to be on my desk. It just happens to be a very long smoke. So what I'm going to have to do is smoke part of it with you right now, then part of it later on, which will make the second half taste a little bit different. But here's some beef lung for Loki. He's waiting over here patiently after being very aggressive in the beginning, and he's looking at everything else. But Loki got a new toy today. It is a Pet Sport Tough Ball. He doesn't even like balls. Oh, he wants me to throw the ball, but I don't. And then he took the ball. Okay, yeah. So he likes balls. Maybe he'll play with it outside. He went to his bedroom to go play with it. But anyway, happy to see all of you guys. Hey, Salem, happy to see you, man. I'm doing well. Still doing my fast and stuff, which has been feeling freaking amazing. I'm losing weight, which feels freaking amazing. I lost 2 pounds yesterday alone. I am chugging a bunch of water, though, and I do have to take my pills. If I don't take a pill, I get cranky, specifically magnesium pills for some reason. But anyway, still looking pretty good here. And plus, you know, Bitcoin is going up. My assets are going up. I'm pretty happy with it here. And hey, GT, yeah, I got to start reminding myself to say this type of stuff, right? If you guys are watching for the first time or you guys enjoy the content, please make sure to subscribe and like the video, like the stream. It helps out a lot. Plus, every time you guys comment, it helps out a lot as well. And hey, Dave, happy to see my man. Oh, no, that'd be a scammer. How do scammers get, what do you call, how do scammers get in here so fast? I don't understand it. DJI 6930, my guy? I don't know what that means. Whatever, it may be. Okay, that was pretty fast for a scam right here. And hey, Ramses, of course, Wilder. Hope you guys are both doing well. I think I said it, but I didn't want to not say it, right? Okay, so before that, let's just light up a cigar here. I was going to get straight to Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's cooled off a little bit. But I think we are going to be looking for another move here pretty soon. This is very exciting, I think, for all of us right now, just because we finally have another shot at Bitcoin making some really good moves. But like Bitcoin's been so boring on the bullish side over the past few months that we've really just needed something to juice up our spirits, right? Let me clamp down on this. There you go. Nice, good cut right there. In fact, let me actually spread this out a little bit. There you go. Nice little cut. This thing is meant to be, this thing takes me about 4.5 hours to smoke normally, so it is a large one, but it's only 13 bucks. And I got this as a gift, so I was like, you know what? Heck yeah. I'm gonna smoke it. Only hard thing is getting this thing lit up because it is a little bit of a thicker guy. Here we go. Lightly toast it, I guess you might say, right? There you go. At least it doesn't burn your hand when you toast it because it's so freaking far away, you know? And then a little bit of puff puff. And there we go. Nice lightly toasted cigar. So let's kind of hop into it, everybody. This is an exciting day, as you guys might imagine. Hey, Haram, happy to see you, my man. Big, you know, the big cigar because Bitcoin may hit the big all-time high, you know? All right, so a little bit of a brief update here. Let me start off with the monthly charts just so we know what's going on. Long story short here, we have an opportunity to have a breakout. And God, I'm getting like so many messages. There you go. We have a chance of breaking out and eventually hitting up towards $174,000. We still have the MACD being bullish here, which is usually a really good thing for Bitcoin. If I were to go over here to this chart without all the technicals and stuff, usually when we're in a bullish setting, things happen, good things happen during that time frame. The moment we dip into red, it usually signals something really bad is about to happen, but we're still green. So overall, nice and simple. We're still green. Things are looking pretty well. Now, as far as the weekly chart, you guys know my strategy here. It has not worked as well as I'd wanted it to over the past few weeks, but maybe it'll just still end up being a good buy zone here if we think about it in hindsight and maybe like a month from now. But you guys know that when we have the full MACD, stochastic, and RSIs all turning green here, I like to buy around that time because I expect we're going to have something of a larger move, right? In this circumstance, everything turned green right around here. And of course, we went up for a little bit, but not really much happened, right? And there was reasons for that: wars, chaos, that type of stuff. And I guess we've just been having a lot of that stuff lately, right? But we've calmed down. We got some good news. And then, so perhaps since the weekly charts are still bullish here, we have the opportunity to continue that breakout, this still being a good opportunity to buy, and us to hit our next level of resistance. Now, if we do break out and hit all-time highs here, guys, I do want to point out the other Fibonacci level that we have been looking at, just so you guys can see what I'm looking at right now and why I'm not like going all into Bitcoin. I've been dollar cost averaging for the past few months, like heavily, right? And I would even say it was light to moderate, but I was doing so many of them and it just happened to be more heavy, right? What we did before, and I just want to refresh your memory in case you guys forgot. Remember we had this other Fibonacci level here from the lows of August 2024 to the highs we had over here back in January, back to the lows. And you see how we got rejected right here. I still think that 111,425 level, that's going to be hard for us to break out and close above. We broke up above it. We didn't close above it. That's when we got rejected right here. So in order for me to get more like woohoo, let's go, I'm going to wait to see if we can close above that, because I believe if we do, the next stop is going to be around $122,000. And during that move, we might even see the Bitcoin dominance pull back a little bit. You're seeing us pull back just a little bit right now. And again, we didn't technically hit the level of resistance here. I'm waiting to see if we do, but we are seeing a little bit of a retreat, right? And I wonder if that's just something else that maybe, I mean, we're looking at a different one right here, but I know there's a ton of different ones you can't add for this. Nope, that one hit there and there. In there, but nope, not yet for that one. I even wonder, let's take log out of it. Does it change anything? No, not really. Okay. But yeah, we might even see a little bit of a pullback from that Bitcoin dominance there, which could be great for altcoins. Now, before we even hop into altcoins and everything, let me zoom in here just a little bit more. I'm going to keep this on the charts for a little bit here. And right now, I'm going to take it up. But usually when we start up the stream and we kind of talk about stuff, I'm always just going to say, hey, remember that 111,425 level right there. I think that's just a little bit of a hidden resistance level that people aren't going to be thinking about right now. If you think about it, I guess a lot of people have been saying this. This is more of like the ugliest cup and maybe handle that we've ever seen. I'm not going that far, but I do think because the weekly charts are still bullish and the momentum is still there, we should still be good. And on top of that, I believe, not yesterday because I didn't stream, or the day before yesterday because my stream was fucking up because of my internet. A few days ago, we were talking about how big money was still loading up on Bitcoin. Big banks, big institutions still buying and buying and buying, and how it was only a matter of time before Bitcoin managed to go higher. And we're going to be watching some CNBC videos today and YouTube videos talking about all that type of stuff. One thing here before we start going over to altcoins, and actually, in fact, let's just go to altcoins and we'll kind of figure out everything else in a little bit. But right now, Bitcoin is still good for making a larger move. My hesitation is I don't know if we have to get rocked back one more time before we make that move, but so far we're doing good, right? So far we're doing good. I'm much happier right now doing dollar cost averaging. I think I was still doing in that 4-hour chart. Like here, let me show you. Right? The 4 momentum just changed this morning, right? So that just got me like, oh yeah, now we can look for some opportunities here. And if you guys have looked at this in the past, went green right there, took off, went green right here, took off, went green right here, did not take off, right? This was a war or something hit right here, so it was not good timing for us. We went back to being green right here, took off again, and now we're going green. Oh, we actually went green right here for a second. That didn't really do much. Maybe because we're up against a level of resistance. Well, at least we just turned green right here as we were breaking out. Maybe that gives us an opportunity to, again, try to get up here towards 112,000 bucks all-time highs. So those 4-hour charts have been pretty good. Of course, if you guys have been doing some day trading and stuff like that, you're probably going to see a few different ones out there. And oops, a daisy. There we go. Let me see. What is that? There you go. The 1-hour chart's still been performing okay. I wouldn't say it's been great, but it's been okay, especially if you kind of tag along with the 4-hour, because the 4-hour has been kind of bearish throughout all this, so you really weren't doing too much trading. This one is when you finally got the opportunity to trade, and right now, since it's both, you'd probably be buying right now, waiting for a larger move, but only for like a 10-hour trade, nothing too crazy. Just remember that you kind of follow the 4-hour one. So you, like this hourly one right here, no, this one was still bullish at this time, never mind. Yeah, but over here, good. You wouldn't have been taking these smaller ones. Now, if I back up a little bit here, let's go there. I want to show you guys exactly when this happened. So I'm going to get rid of the oscillators, go over to the 15-minute chart, stretch it out, and then we're going to go with that daily market sessions. U.S. market opened up and all hell broke loose. London market was pretty calm. London market is where everything calms down between the Tokyo markets and the U.S. markets here, which I find is very interesting because, again, there are some times where London's can little continuation. New York market starts boom, kind of chaotic. Tokyo a little bit more calm here, and this was back over the. Oh, this is Monday. That's Tuesday. Today is Wednesday. Wow, my brain is really foggy right now. But yeah, so overall, those times to be trading, if you guys do want to do small scalping and day trading, it's still going to be in the early morning, guys. I'm sorry, I'm not even awake during that time, so you're not going to catch me streaming, but that's when you guys are going to be trading if you want to practice those dollar cost averagings, or excuse me, those day trades. Dollar cost averaging you can do anytime you want to. Also, because I wasn't able to stream yesterday and my stream messed up the other day with my internet upload speed crashing. It crashed from 42 to 0.67. That's how bad it went. Because of all that, what we're going to be doing tonight at 4 o'clock is we're going to be making a new portfolio here with no Bitcoin, no Ethereum, no Solana, and we're only going to be choosing crypto tokens that have market caps below 800 million. 800 million. We're not going to go as low as 500, but from zero market cap to 800 million. Basically, whatever we can find on coin market cap, right? The main portfolio is up 3.76% today, which is pretty good. The group portfolio is up 4% today, and so far we've made about a 4.85% profit. We've been holding this for a while, guys. I wish I could. I wonder. View transaction. There we go. So I put this in here June 18th. So it's been half a month, and we're up around 4.5%. Again, you may think 4.5% is not that crazy, but in terms of the stock market, that's actually pretty darn good if I do say so myself, right? Because most people are just expecting 13% for a year, and we've made that in about 3 months or so. I think that's fine, right? So now that we've gone through all that, altcoins in general, and you guys can see them right here. In fact, let me go over here to this final one. There we go. You guys can see there's a bunch of green on the screen right now, which opens up a lot of opportunities for people. Ethereum is green across the board. XRP is green across the board. The only things that aren't really green across the board are things like Dogecoin, still down over the last 30 days. That's not too good. Same with over the last 60 days. I think Dogecoin is only getting a really big pop today because if Bitcoin does break out, you're going to see Dogecoin being like, hey, this is the weekly chart. We're at a big support level here. We're right below a lot of moving averages. You can see Dogecoin in a matter of like 2 to 3 weeks being back all the way up here around 25 cents, which would be a massive gain of about 30-40%. And that 30-40%, of course, would bring it back up to positive in the last 60 days and the last 30 days. All right. So I think that's possible here. So ADA is still in that same camp as Dogecoin. Same with SUI. Stellar's not too good. Stellar's actually pretty bad right now. It's bad over the last 7 days still. At least everything else is pretty green for the most part. OKB, Aptos doing a little bit better. But yeah, we're still clawing ourselves out from a lot of the pain we saw over the past few weeks and few months, all right? I'm not smoking. I'm too busy talking. There we go. Sorry about that, but I do actually like the flavor of this cigar. All right, we're still making up for all the losses we got over the past few months. You can see Dogecoin down a lot, Trump token down a lot, Melania down a lot. Melania might have 2 green weeks in a row for the first time ever. For the first time ever. If you guys were ever thinking of doing a YOLO, I'm going to add this to our portfolio for later on tonight because I just want to see if we can YOLO into it. Again, high risk, but this is the high risk portfolio that we're making, right? Which I think will be really fun to try out. Now, again, with rough past few weeks, but at least it's not as bad as it was back in March. Bonk, come down a lot. I was hoping for more of a pop here, higher low. We may still get a higher low, but it's like a 3 weeks behind schedule in my opinion here. Miro, you see the similar type of thing across the board here. Very similar across the board. We've had a few good days. Sure, they're up like 5, 11%. This is up 11% today on the weekly chart. 11% today. Still not that great compared to where we were just a couple months ago. So even if you guys are afraid of like, oh my gosh, am I missing the rally? No, you're not missing anything. So if you want to keep on dollar cost averaging, that's going to be the safest way going forward here, okay? Now, what's really cool about all this is, maybe I should go to this one. My head's not blocking it. My head's still blocking it. Or it's still being blocked. There we go. All right, here we go, yeah. So we've ticked up a little bit from 16% chance of a rate cut this month to from 16% to 23.3%. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to have a rate cut, but it signals that things are getting closer to having a rate cut, which gives us some good news. And some of the reasons that happened here today is all because of CNBC. The private sector lost 33,000 jobs, badly missing expectations for a 100,000 increase. They wanted 100,000, they lost 33,000. Trump announces a Vietnam trade deal, 20% tariff on imports to the United States, and basically Vietnam's economy is opening up to American companies. Then Microsoft is laying off about 9,000 employees in the latest round of cuts. Right? And on top of that, inflation really hasn't been as bad as everybody was predicting. Now, we have a few videos today. I'm just going to kind of point them out to you very fast. I'm going to put them into this mode where I go like to YouTube. There we go. First one is Bitcoin nears record highs as companies go on a buying spree. We've talked about this a little bit, especially a couple days ago, but now CNBC is covering it, so why don't we listen to what they have to say as well? Afterwards, stablecoins are the on-ramp to Bitcoin. Trump announces new trade framework deal with Vietnam. Private sector lost 33,000 jobs. We're going to be listening to this. And then we're going to be going over here to tariffs are unlikely to cause as much consumer disruption as feared. And that's the type of stuff that makes it very much easier for Jerome Powell to say, oh, maybe we can have a rate cut in July. Maybe we can have an emergency rate cut in August. Because again, people forget it goes from July to September. There's no August. There's 7. Where's 8? It goes 7, 9, 10, 12. We don't have one in November and we don't have one in August. They can always have an emergency rate cut. And if you're looking at this right now, if there's a 72% chance we're having a rate cut in September, that's 25 basis points, and 21% chance, just 21, not massive, but 21% chance that we have a full 50 basis point rate cut then, right? That could be interesting for us because maybe we have a 25 point cut in August, another 25 point cut in September, which I think could be very good news for us. Now, of course, everybody's expecting cuts to happen eventually towards the end of this year, but if we can have that happening sooner, that gives all of these tokens like Floki, ADA, Dogecoin, AMP, Ape, AXS, Arbitrum, whatever, a great opportunity to have some really good moves. Again, if you guys are looking to day trade a lot of this stuff, look for tokens that are near moving averages. We've talked about this so much, and in fact, Bitcoin over the last few days, look at the daily chart here. We had this nasty day because we broke down below the 50, and then we broke back above the 50, and you see the craziness that can happen. Moving averages are fun. Now, I'm not saying it's an exact science or anything like that, but it just so happens that there's a lot of volatility when we break and close and get rejected from those values, right? So just keep it in mind. Please keep it in mind. Over here on Ethereum, breaking above moving averages right now. Big move, big move. I know it doesn't look like a big move, but like that was a swing of like 4%, which is a good amount of money here, especially if you're trading with leverage. And then weekly chart for Ethereum. Is that the 20 and is that the 50 and 200 moving averages? Yes, it is. So we have an opportunity there. Solana, an opportunity, but this is an old level of resistance. Well, it's still there, but we're kind of in between. So not as big of a move there, but again, it's the 50, so we can't have a big move. Last time we broke above the 50 there, 50 there, 50 there. All types of wild stuff happens around that 50 for Solana. So we're getting closer. Dogecoin, 20 and 50. I'd expect us to have a big pump if Bitcoin does break out here. We would go from around 17 cents all the way up here towards 21 cents, which is a pretty good return on the investment. Now, Trump and Melania, just too new to have those type of effects, but at least you can try to see if there's anything on the daily. For Melania here, you can see there's been some big moves when you break above it, but we haven't really managed to get above the 50 here. Since we are stagnating, we're going to add this to our YOLO pot here. I'll buy $20 worth personally to see where it goes, but I don't, $50. I don't think I need to go that much crazier with it. But yeah. So again, look at those weekly charts. They're going to tell you a lot about different types of tokens and where they may go. Like with a WIF or something like that, I'm not saying it can't have a big move. I think WIF has given us big moves in the past, but a lot of them have happened around the moving averages. So what I'm thinking of is maybe just looking at the daily charts. We're looking at anything big here. Yeah, the 50 moving averages, maybe that pops us up here to $1 or $1.30. And if we get up to $1.30, then we're starting to play around with the 50 right here. So that means maybe more in a few weeks, this may be something you want to look at. But I'd still be buying WIF right now, right? So a lot of different tokens out there. You can see Bonk right here at the 20 right there. Mirror at the 20 right here. Baby Doge, 20, 50, 200 all there. Book of Meme, 20. We're set up for some good moves with altcoins here. Now, not every altcoin is going to have massive moves, as you can see with this one, like Book of Meme. But if you find the ones that historically do by just opening up a chart and looking at, let me look at the past couple years. Oh, that takes about 5 seconds. You'll find some tokens in a heartbeat. So I want to make sure this still had a little bit of life to it. But yeah, just a lot of crazy news. And let me refresh very fast because the Dow Jones is down a little bit today, but the SPY and the NASDAQ are still up. And that's what we look at in terms of Bitcoin because those are the companies that are usually investing in Bitcoin. Right. S&P 500 hits new record as Trump announces Vietnam trade deal, gains limited by weak jobs data. That weak jobs data is not bad though. Why? Because that helps us assume that we're going to have rate cuts faster. We're in that weird mindset right now that people just don't know how to comprehend because it does sound crazy. Bad economic data is good for us in the market because we want to see the stock market go up, which means we want rate cuts to go down, of course. So it is a very big cigar arm. And hey, Mo, happy to see you. Dude, I have a good cigar. If Bitcoin hits $150,000, I have a very special cigar I want to smoke with you guys here. It is literally upstairs. It is that Davidoff Royal Blue. It cost me like $180 with tax, but like retail, it's like $150. So $150 for 100. And now I got a premium like aged Behike, and it's like worth $300 and something. It's like a Cohiba style, right? If Bitcoin hits 300,000, I will smoke it. It is meant for when my sister graduates college, but I can always get another one for that because I know the person that has like really good Behikes. Big cigar, big portfolio. What do you call it? But see, this is the thing about my portfolio. I really want to emphasize this was not a big portfolio at the start, right? When you go over here, it says All-time profit is 167,000 right now. My portfolio is 208,000, right? That's because Bitcoin made me a lot of money because I bought around 22,000, right? And then it's right now at 111, $110,000, $109,000, right? That's how you make the money. Solana was a dark horse that I didn't know was happening, but then I also lost like 70% of my Matic. And my Tron's up a little bit, 300%. My Ethereum is up only 81% since I bought it in 2022. Bad. 80A, right, is only up 23%. So there's some ups and downs here. I also lost like maybe I want to say like another $5,000 in like high risk altcoins, but that's why that you put a little bit of money in those and you put most of your money in Bitcoin and Ethereum, stuff like that. But we're gonna have the same thing happen again. So whenever this market crashes and burns, whenever it does happen, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna be like, okay, guys, we're breaking down below the 100 or the 150 weekly moving averages. We can start to dollar cost average our money in here, and then we just have to wait. Right? Just have to wait and wait and wait. Of course, your goal is going to be to get 1 Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter if you can do it or not. It'll still be worth a lot a few years down the road. And then we're going to start the cycle all over again. It's just that maybe things won't be as chaotic. We've hit a really chaotic period in like world history here. I don't think people realize that. Like, even though the Iraq war was happening back in like early 2000s and stuff like that, and like there was a lot of shit happening, I feel like right now is more chaotic than it's ever been because of so much disruption happening around the world with like major wars that are just more influential, you know? And of course, AI about to like change and revolutionize the world, which will be crazy, 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 crazy. Excuse me. All right, so first of all, let's go watch this video right here. This is from CNBC. Bitcoin nears record highs as companies go on a buying spree. I just want you guys to understand how much money these companies are actually investing right now because I do think it matters a lot. All right. And before I forget, and hey, Dolphin, happy to see you. I will still be streaming at 4 o'clock today. I will still be streaming at 4, from 4 to 6. So if you guys can't see me today, if you guys are watching this later on, I'll be live a little bit later on today. We'll go over the same technicals for Bitcoin, but instead it'll be much more of a chat and just hang out and watching where Bitcoin goes because we're doing all the informative stuff right now, right? Moving up 22% today. I think it's up more than others right now. Love the stream as always. Thanks for everything. I know where Elijah. I appreciate you a lot, my man. Can you zoom out TNX? Zoom out TNX. I don't know which token it is, but let me know. And hood hit $100 today. Oh yeah, makes me see again. What did I tell you guys? I was selling my hood back around $60, and I was like, yeah, I've sold out majority of my hood. I like it, but I think it may be done. All of a sudden they're hitting out tokenized stocks, all this shit, and I'm like, that's my problem. I sell assets too early. But you know what I did? I bought it at $10. I sold it at $60. I'm still a very freaking happy camper. And again, when Bitcoin crashes, which it will eventually, hood will crash along with it, just like Coinbase will crash along with it. And I will be there to buy it up again because those are nice little stock assets where you can hold. My thing is, I just wish they had maybe dividends or something like that to keep me like really interested in holding it for the long term, more than they do. Right? Can I zoom out my screen? Oh, not like this one right here, because YouTube gets really mad if I play other YouTubers' videos sometimes. Like normally what I would do is I'd go to Final, I'd keep my head in the corner, I'd make this full stream, and we can just watch it here. But YouTube doesn't like that so much, so I have to find ways to wiggle around where like certain stuff is cropped out and stuff like that. Because remember, my channel is demonetized. I get to reapply for monetization on the 10th of July. So I've been spending a lot of time deleting a lot of old videos and shorts again. Right now it's just a bunch of my cut up stuff and it's a lot of me going on. I have to cut off, I still have to delete like maybe 30-40 videos and see if that helps out. And then we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be able to be monetized again. Maybe I can actually get members again. What I'll probably do is make a whole new membership tier and it'll be like the same $1.99 for the base. Then we'll kind of see what happens next. But I'm not going to try to make the memberships like $20 or $30 or $50. I may have a few of those, but those are optional, right? Those are not like, oh, in order to be a member, you have to do all that type of stuff. Like, nah. That's just if you really want to do some crazy support stuff, right? You want to supply my cigar, my cigar habit, all right? Yeah. I'm not smoking this enough to keep it really lit, which is a kind of an annoyance. It's relighting up a little bit. I just had to give it a few puffs. But yeah, this is called a double Agero. I call it the digger. Friends call it the digger. Not the other Igor word, but digger. Yeah, it's very, very tasty. But it's only like $13. You can get it up at the shop in Seattle if any of you guys are local. And it just lasts forever. Forever. All right. And hey Mo, I will check out my email right after this is over. No, later on 6, because right after the stream is over, I have to go to do a video call meeting. And then after that, I'm going straight into the 4 o'clock stream. But after the 4 o'clock stream, I will look at it. But maybe if I'm not talking in the meeting, I'll just give it a quick little glance for you. Appreciate it. All right, ready, guys? Here we go.
Welcome back. Bitcoin marching back toward its all-time high. That was around 112,000, and we're just 3K below that level right now. But when prices dropped back in April, some big buyers seem to have bought the dip. A new piece on .com looks at how, for the third straight quarter, public companies bought more Bitcoin than ETFs did. So will this be a lasting trend, or is it just temporary fad boosting prices? Tanea McKeel wrote that story, and she joins me now. This is fascinating, and I sympathize a little bit. I think it was Scaramucci who said this. He goes, look, if you as the investor want Bitcoin, just buy Bitcoin. Why do you need to buy a company that buys Bitcoin? But anyway, over to you.
Okay, I remember I have to pause every now and again to make sure YouTube doesn't get mad at me. Makes a good point. I don't really own any of the ETFs. I think if you have a family member who is very skeptical about buying Bitcoin and they really just don't want to own it, I would tell them to buy the ETF, because the ETF comes with the insurance of the FTC, the SPC, and things like that. Where if something happened and their account gets drained or something like that, if they lose up to $250,000, whatever, they get reimbursed that full $250,000. So there is that for that generation. So I think there's a use for it, honestly. All right, here we go.
And what trend we're seeing.
Yeah, Kelly. Well, thank you. So we looked at data that shows public companies collectively grew their Bitcoin holdings about 18% in Q2, while Bitcoin balances tied to ETFs showed growth of just 8% in the same period. And as you said, this is the third quarter in a row we've seen Bitcoin buying by corporate treasuries outpacing that of ETFs. And it's, of course, evidence of the regulatory relief that the crypto industry is enjoying under President Trump with his executive order earlier this year to create a Bitcoin reserve. This, basically telling the market Bitcoin is here to stay. Many, no doubt, saw the green light to try to pursue the MicroStrategy playbook of becoming a Bitcoin holding company to reap similar benefits. With the uncertainty we've had in the market this year, this trend is not a total surprise. Institutional buyers seeking exposure to Bitcoin through ETFs, that's a different game from public companies trying to accumulate in order to increase shareholder value. So these corporate purchases aren't driven by the macro trend or by sentiment. Is this a lasting trend, Kelly? Probably not, based on the conversations I'm having. It's a unique moment in time where we're seeing the beginning of a whole category of companies. I just spoke with Cosmo Jang from Pantera this morning. He said they're leaning into it heavily, but like a lot of early stage companies, most won't succeed or survive, although there should be a handful with staying power. And to your question, Kelly, about what it will do to crypto prices, I think it'll actually be really interesting to see if instead of that altcoin rally you get after the Bitcoin rally, you see a lot of investors kind of turn their attention to these companies instead.
Did you pick up on any traditional companies putting Bitcoin on the balance? I mean, there's always been rumors like, is Microsoft going to do it, or some of these other ones? Or are these mostly crypto players, people in the space already?
I think it's mostly the latter. Looking at this moment, this opportunity to take advantage of the public markets to be able to do something like this, because it just doesn't work without the public market.
Interesting. Tanea, appreciate it. Tanea McKeel, you can read more of her piece on CNBC.com.
Okay, there we go. For whatever reason, let me know very fast. Do you guys hear an echo when this is happening? Because I noticed that my microphone sound is going off when I'm playing the audio, and I don't think my audio is that loud. So let me know if you guys hear an echo when I play
In April, some big buyers seem to have bought the dip. A new piece on .com looks at how, for the third...
There you go. Sorry, I just wanted to ask you guys that before I get started, because, again, I have this little thing right here, and it says that my microphone is going off at the same time as the desktop audio, and I'm really curious why that is happening that way. Anyway, I digress. That's the first video out of the way right here. The next one is going on about stablecoins. I think stablecoins is actually making it easier for people to get into the adoption side of Bitcoin, but it's more of a really boring topic, so I don't generally talk about it all too much. You don't think so? Okay, perfect. Yeah. Because I'm afraid it has echo. That means I won't have to get rid of some of my stuff right there. Okay, I appreciate that. I was very, very concerned. Yeah, thanks. I was very concerned about that one. All right, so let's the next one up. Stablecoins are an on-ramp for Bitcoin, says Custodia Bank. Let's listen to this one for a few minutes here. Again, this is only 4 minutes long, so I don't even have to pause that many times, but stablecoins, it's always fascinating how much this is becoming a big thing on Wall Street. And I think it's because it's such a threat to a couple of those institutional companies like a Visa or a MasterCard. Imagine only like having to pay Tron's dollar compared to all the fees for Visa, right? And especially if Tron can get it below $1, ooh, that could be pretty good as well. All right, here we go.
While Bitcoin isn't going away, the hype lately does seem to be shifting somewhat to stablecoins. Just look at shares of issuer Circle up more than 480% from its IPO last month. While even the traditional players like Visa and MasterCard, they have also made some moves on the stablecoin front. And moments ago, Ripple, a stablecoin issuer, says it's applying for a U.S. banking license. Ripple is surging 4.5% today. Our next guest sees stablecoin volumes also surging in the next few years.
Banking.
Caitlin Long is CEO and founder of Custodia Bank. And Caitlin, I don't think I've checked in with you since the Trump administration. Can you bring us up to speed? Did you get the banking license? What's the deal now?
Well, we have a bank charter, but we're still waiting for our clearing account from the Fed. The Fed has been very opposed to all of this technology innovation that is starting to change. And
imagine if Trump uses crypto as a way to start bashing Jerome Powell instead of just going after rate cuts. I believe that may do more good because I think Wall Street is more on his side about that, saying, yeah, Jerome Powell, you're not being fair on crypto. We'll let you do your thing on rate cuts, but crypto, you need to change. I believe that'd be a good way for him to keep on making changes, as he's already started to do over the past few weeks, as you guys might have heard about.
And there are now more than 40 applicants for a Fed clearing account waiting. And as you pointed out, others are coming. The stablecoin issuers are getting bank licenses and have declared an intention to apply for the same account that we applied for and have been waiting for more than 5 years, almost 5 years.
So while the administration might be pro-crypto, the Fed still is not.
Yes, the Fed has only granted 2 clearing accounts in the last decade to non-traditional banks. And ironically, or perhaps by design, each one had a former Fed vice chair for supervision associated with it.
So meanwhile, Circle, the whole thing about...
She just threw some shade about corruption in this. The other lady just had to move on. You heard that? You heard that? I heard that.
Stablecoins. I mean, look, I'm glad for them that it's a hot IPO. I think it's still emblematic of the excitement that there is around crypto. But to see that excitement shifting to crypto as infrastructure, which Vlad Tenev talked about on Monday, kind of feels to me like crypto going mainstream, which is the next step towards it kind of becoming more boring.
Absolutely. And I love the idea that banks can be boring and bring this technology to customers. That's why Custodia is working with Vantage Bank. We issued the first bank-issued stablecoin back in March, working with Vantage, and completed transactions for a Mexican trucking company volleying U.S. dollars back and forth across the border in the span of about 3 minutes, something that would have taken days under the existing technology.
Do you think that as this all kind of shifts to the underpinnings and again, it is a better mousetrap for a lot of the ways that we've traditionally done cross-border payments and that kind of thing, but what does that mean for the future of Bitcoin itself? I'm very curious about this. It's still perceived by many digital gold. Everyone wants a piece of it, apparently public companies too, but do you think that the frenzy for holding Bitcoin will last as long as we've seen it last up until now that crypto is just becoming an infrastructure layer? Why persist with the kind of enthusiasm for Bitcoin when crypto is now so much more than that?
Yeah, great question, Kelly. I look at stablecoins as an on-ramp to Bitcoin because, especially in the developed world, we have a relatively stable banking system and relatively stable currencies. But Bitcoin, frankly, we wouldn't have as much enthusiasm for Bitcoin, wouldn't have had up until this point, if there weren't so much money printing and so much debasement of fiat currency around the world. In the developed world, of course, it's not been as much as in certain other countries. But frankly, the fact that Tether in particular was able to tap into emerging markets, really, I think they've recently said they've served 430 million active monthly users, a stunningly large number. And they're serving people who may make $1 or $2 a day in wages in places that don't even have access to electricity, for example. And so that's bringing a whole new demand for the U.S. dollar into the markets. And clearly, President Trump and Secretary Bessent are embracing that.
Right.
Bam. I love when they have some intellectual crypto people on there that can really make things make sense, if that, if that makes sense. Because that lady clearly was like asking some questions. She didn't have any bias or anything like that as far as this. But when you ask those questions, that lady knew exactly how to answer them. And when she threw some shade at Jerome Powell and some of the corruption at the Federal Reserve, the media girl just had to move it along, which I always think is a very hilarious thing that we have. Because, no matter what part of the government you're looking at, there's usually some type of corruption. And I hate to say that, but isn't corruption another reason we need to have Bitcoin in the first place? Could you imagine if we had to track every dollar that leaves Congress and you could see exactly where it went? Imagine. That would be Congress's worst nightmare, because all of that lobbying money means nothing at that point. All right. So next up on the list, we have over here with the trade deal with Vietnam. Right now, just so you guys can see, Bitcoin on the 15-minute chart is still moving in a good direction here. It's trying to break out. It is stagnating a little bit, so what you might see happen is a roll down here before a larger move. I'm hoping that we're still moving up more over the next couple of days, but it seems like these big moves have been starting off in the morning time, consolidating through the afternoon, especially through Tokyo time, maybe another big bump if we're lucky, and they really start to pick up again, when we have those morning moves around 6:30 when the American market opens back up. All right. So let's listen to one more here. And any breaking news I need to be worrying about? Breaking news? No breaking news. After all this, we get to go over to Twitter for a little bit and get to have a nice little conversation, because they're talking about Diddy today. Diddy. Here we go.
White House this morning announcing a new trade framework with Vietnam. Let's get to Eamon Jabbers with the details. So what do we know, Eamon?
Sarah, well, we don't have any official confirmation in terms of documentation, legal documents, that sort of thing. What we do have is the president's social media post, and what he says there is that the tariff rate on Vietnam is now going to go to 20%. They're going to have a 40% tariff on what they call transshipments. That's things that are coming through Vietnam and on to the United States. Also, he says there's going to be a 0% tariff on U.S. exports to Vietnam. We'll wait now for the official paperwork on this. Nothing so far, Sarah, from the Vietnamese side yet in terms of an official announcement that we have seen from here. So we'll watch for that to see if their version of this agreement matches with what the president has just put out on social media. And also, I'm told, Sarah, that we might expect another deal here coming relatively soon. The White House expects more deals before that July 9th deadline that the president has put in place for negotiations. There's a possibility, a sense in the building that there might be another deal coming maybe as soon as today. Don't want to get ahead of that. Doesn't seem to be across the finish line yet, but something to just keep an eye out for in the coming days. And then take a look at this just to get a sense of Vietnam overall. This graphic that we prepared shows where Vietnam ranks in terms of global trading partners. And you see Vietnam there. Exports to Vietnam, just over $3 billion. Imports, $39.7 billion. So this is clearly a trade deficit country. That $39.7 billion is going to be what's impacted here by this new tariff rate of 20%, which is substantially higher than what American importers have been paying for goods imported from Vietnam before. But this deal clearly gives Vietnam some clarity, maybe some goodwill in the White House, maybe some geostrategic certainty about which orbit it lands in. So there are reasons for the Vietnamese to agree to this deal, even if the tariff rate is going to end up being much higher than it was previously, still lower than the so-called Liberation Day tariff that the president had proposed earlier this year, Sarah.
I think there's also an interesting jab at China in this, the 40% tariff on transshipments, which is basically goods that go through Vietnam on their way to the U.S., which many of which come from China. So that's interesting. But ultimately, Eamon, the cost of doing business for U.S. companies that import from Vietnam, and a lot of them had switched over from China since the first Trump administration, because China was really in the eye of the storm when it comes to tariffs, they will pay 20% tariffs on those imports from Vietnam.
Yeah, and we should be clear about this, right, Sarah, because I've just seen some static on social media about this. A tariff is a tax on an American importer, right? So the person who's paying the tax is the American company who's importing the good from Vietnam, right? So they will pay that at the point where the goods cross the border, and they'll have to figure out whether they can negotiate a lower price from their suppliers, whether they can pass that on to customers, or whether they have to eat that in terms of their profit margins. But that is an increased cost now for American importers who were doing business in Vietnam. And a lot of them were doing business, as you point out, in Vietnam, because the word from the U.S. government was, we want you out of China. We want supply chains out of China. So they were looking for another place to go, a potential safe harbor. Now it looks like Vietnam, not quite as safe a harbor as a lot of American importers may have thought. Do they look for someplace else? Or is any of that production that's in Vietnam right now, as the Trump administration will hope, is any of that able to be onshored to U.S. productive facilities at any kind of economic price that makes sense, right?
It's like Columbia Sportswear, 48% exposure to Vietnam. Decker, 64% exposure. Nike, 44%. Under Armour, 30%. These are production numbers from Stifel.
Really tough to onshore.
And again, all of these companies, they all have massive margins. Nike shoes shouldn't cost like $200, $250, right? They don't cost that much to make at all. So what could happen is they make less profits if they want to protect the consumer, or they just have to raise their prices. But either way, it means probably less money for Nike, less money for all these other companies. But if they move over to another country, if they do that, there's a risk that that country has to renegotiate tariffs as well, because Trump really wants some of those jobs over here, especially because he just wants more GDP, he wants more growth in the United States, more money to remain here, and less money going overseas, of course, right? So we can listen to the rest of this, or we don't have to listen to the rest of that. You guys get the gist of what they were talking about. And hey, Little Scratcher, am I worried about my parents and grandparents losing their health insurance? Both my parents have passed away now, but grandparents having to go back home since nursing home is closing. My grandparents don't live in a nursing home. They live in a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and they have to pay those damn HOA fees. Yeah, they're fine. I don't really know many people affected by the health insurance stuff that's going on. But from what I understand, like, it's more about getting people that are able to work to get back to work. I know there's some nuance there, so I don't really want to say like in totality what that's what's happening, but I support if you can work, if you have the ability to work and you're not working and you're just living off of the state, I don't think that's a good thing. I think you should be out there. Even if it's a really boring job like a Walmart greeter, I still expect you to be out there where like private companies paying you instead of the government. I don't like the government paying people like that personally, right? And hey, Mo, thank you. If you guys do like this stream, please make sure to hit the like button. Next up, we do have the private sector losing 33,000 jobs. We're going to be listening to this one. This one's a little bit longer video, around 8 minutes long, but I just want to check up on Bitcoin and see how it's doing. We just talked about that rolling off. It looked like it was going to happen here, and it is rolling off a little bit right now. We'll see if it gets worse or not, but if you guys have any type of day trades that you guys have placed earlier in the day, I would say this is probably your best opportunity for doing a little bit of scaling out. Again, you don't have to sell everything, but scaling out, just like if you bought anywhere down here, this would have been an appropriate time to start scaling out as we were rocking and rolling off there. It can still go higher, but again, Bitcoin's already up around like $3,600 for the day. That's a little bit different. Now, before we go further, Loki's over here looking for another treat. Who knows what happened to the ball I gave him? Can you say hi? Can you look at the screen? No, you can still see he's looking exactly at the... Maybe I like beef liver or beef lung. You want one more? Literally, later on after the 6 o'clock stream, we have to go buy more treats for him because he's almost out of treats. All he has is beef liver, and I like to have him those. I get him some homemade treats that this lady makes, and they're really, really good for him. Hey. My eyes are over here. Yeah, huh? Mm-hmm. All right. And there we go. All right. So I think this is one of the reasons we did see Bitcoin go up again today. So just pay attention to this one a little bit more, especially if you guys have been doing something else. And it's really because I believe that news helped get some of the, let me see if I can get this out of here now. There you go. Helps get some of the probabilities up for a rate cut this month. Okay. There we go. I don't think Trump is going to deport Elon Musk, but I think that'd be a crazy thing to happen. A very crazy thing to happen. All right, here we go, guys.
We've got ADP crossing the wires. Let's get to him.
Minus 33,000. ADP saying that non-farm payrolls declined by 33,000. That's substantially below, for the second month in a row, the estimate of 100,000. It is the only decline since March of 2023. Good sector not doing too badly, up 32,000. The losses appear to come from the services sector. We'll show you details in a second, of minus 66,000. And there's the non-farm payroll estimate, which includes government and the private sector, for tomorrow, Thursday, remember, folks, and that's 110,000. It's the second weak month in a row for ADP after downwardly revised 29,000 for May. But it's been running, by the way, substantially weaker than the BLS private sector numbers. We'll give you that in just a second. But first, let's look at which sectors were affected. Small business down 47,000. There's been a lot of speculation as to whether or not the tariffs would be hurting or hitting small business, down 47,000. Medium-sized business down 15,000, but large businesses doing okay, up positive 30,000. The losses were in this professional business services sector, minus 56,000, but also one of the stalwarts of.
See that right there? Let me actually just go here for this video. It's actually more detailed. YouTube, don't get mad at me. Professional biz services, right? So this is not like your ma and pa shops and stuff like that, right? This is more of your consulting firms and things like that. Maybe what a lot of small businesses use for their marketing, their graphic design, all that type of stuff. It's not really happening. But if you think about this, right? Professional biz services, if your company has just started to use AI and you have a bunch of more productive employees now, well, if you don't have that much business coming in because, again, the economy is slowing down, you're going to do a layoff and you're still going to have the same amount of productivity because they're using ChatGPT now. They're using a bunch of graphic design software now, all making life a lot easier. So I think some of this is a little bit of AI disruption, specifically in the professional business services and the financial activities. Everything else, I don't think AI really has a huge part in there just yet. Maybe at a corporate level, but day to day, I just don't see it happening that much yet, okay? Next up, we have health and education, down 52,000. I don't even know where those are coming from right now. I really wonder where those jobs are being lost. So what I'm going to do is actually search for it very fast on here. Where are healthcare jobs losing jobs? Maybe. Let's see. Now let me see. Yeah. So it seems like, just from, I'm looking at an article from Hospital Review, it seems like it's happening more in management and not on the floor. So management level jobs are being cut in healthcare services. Education, I'm not entirely sure because I have no idea how education works in this country because I went to private school growing up. It's like completely different. Now, granted, private school on a scholarship, but still private school, right? All right, here we go.
Of the job market, education and health services down 52,000, financial activities down 14, but manufacturing up 15, and leisure and hospitality still doing well, up 32,000. As for wages, the 4.4%, this is, by the way, called for millions of paychecks out there, so it's actually better than the government data. It is up 4.4% for people staying in their jobs. That's down a tick. And 6.8% for job changers. That's down 0.2 from the last month. Note that the average absolute difference, without care to sign, between ADP and the BLS private sector is now up to 77,000 per month. So it's not exactly spot on, and there's some scope for the ADP to be in line with the lower estimates on the street. Guys, I've seen other data that suggests the payrolls will be soft. Mm-hmm. Some of the high-frequency data we follow from Homebase, Goldman noting the big data. Also, maybe worth mentioning, in the ISM manufacturing report from yesterday, they said that mentions of job firings outnumbered mentions of hirings by 3 to 1.
By 3 to 1, mentions of job firings or more than mentions of job hirings. Again, I know Jerome Powell doesn't want to appear that he's taking orders from Trump, But at a certain point, he's going to have to start looking at this data and saying, holy shit, the economy is getting worse and we need to do something to fix it. Especially if inflation isn't going up like he said it was going to go up. It hasn't been going up, right? So we're going to have to see. I believe CPI for this month is going to be absolutely absolutely crazy. Let me see if I go over here right fast. Economic calendar. Just so you guys can see this very fast. Tuesday, we have construction and stuff like that. Wednesday, we have the ADP employment. We talked about that. Tomorrow is jobless claims and unemployment rate. That's going to be another big day. So this could be a really big boost for Bitcoin here. And then next week, where's at? No. Oh, I forgot. We're still in the middle of the... Yeah, this was so early in the month, aren't we? Well, let me go that far. No, well, let me... Okay, and if in a couple weeks we have CPI data, when we have that CPI data, oh boy, that could launch us because, again, CPI data is towards the middle of the month, around the 15th or 16th, somewhere around there. At the 30th, at the end of the month is when we have the FOMC meeting. So that's plenty of time for the Fed to be like, oh shit, data is really good. We need to do something. If the data is bad, that's bad. All right, so just understand that. All right, here we go.
So I think the market has a, what's the right word, ambivalent relationship with ADP.
Right.
Because it's just not on. But as for perhaps spotting a trend or underlining the concerned softness, I think it probably does a decent job of that. Over the course of a 12-month period, the two are off by about 200,000. So over time, they kind of come together. That's only 14,000 a month. As for the Fed, this will increase pressure on the Federal Reserve to cut rates, but it won't change anything about the concern they have over potential inflation. So it really just kind of deepens the stagflationary concern that we've heard from Fed officials.
Yeah.
Meantime, the one and only Rick Santelli joins us from the CME for his reaction.
All right, so just so you guys know, the guy that was just talking, the bald guy right here, right? He's a very much liberal, so a lot of his viewpoints are very liberal. The guy coming up very fast, let me just pull him up.
The CME for his reaction to those numbers. Rick, you've been looking at them, listening to Mr. Leisman.
All right, this guy is very conservative. Think of the first guy being very pro-Joe Biden, this guy being very pro-Donald Trump. Just think of it like that. When you hear the messages, they're both going to have these biases, and I just want you guys to understand they have those biases. I'm much more of a Rick Santelli guy as far as how I view the economy, so I usually stick with him, even if I do criticize Trump every now and again, which is pretty funny because, you know, he's Trump. He's all over the place sometimes. All right, here we go.
What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, definitely it's the worst job creation from ADP since March of 23. That's a pretty good stretch of time. We all know that the labor market, at least purported by all the experts, economists, and Fed personnel.
Oh, she just said since March of 2023. Oh, Bitcoin is coming up right here a little bit. Oh, we may be able to do it. We haven't broken down yet. I thought we were breaking down. We temporarily did. Bitcoin may be about to have another surge here. Let me go back over here, though. March of 2023 was over here. we did have a good moment after that. All right, I'll go back over here very fast. And in fact, there we go. We're looking pretty good here. We're going to come back to it after this video.
It is just a kind of a ticking time bomb of slowness. It's going to definitely slow down. It's just a matter of when and what the rate of change is going to be. I don't know that I agree with that, but I do agree that the glide path is going to be headed down, but I think it's going to be a long glide path. And the relationship between ADP and the Labor Department's statistics that we'll be seeing tomorrow, as Steve adequately pointed out, there's a wide spread there. When I look at what happened with JOLTS yesterday, when I consider most of the press and headlines over tariffs and the current administration's policies, it doesn't shock me that there may be more uses of the word firing than hiring. But maybe it's the contrarian end of this that we should pay more attention to. Maybe we should learn a lesson about what the equity markets did, about the kind of counter-trend rally we had that briefly pushed yields down, although I think that much of that may be in the rear-view mirror. Ultimately, I think it's easy. Yes, I think the best days of the labor market are behind us, but I do think that there could be a resurgence down the road for a variety of reasons after we hit maybe a small speed bump, and I think that's the real issue here. Are we going to get a genuine slowdown or a small hiccup? I'm in the latter camp.
Can we just go for one? Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
What do you think this is a function of? Meaning why? We're talking about AI. We're talking about tariffs. So talking about what? Eventually,
standing in place creates a drain on the job growth. The reason is because people leave the job market if you don't hire more people. So what we've heard is not.
Just so you understand what he's saying, is he is correct about this. If nobody's hiring, but people keep on leaving their jobs, right? That means eventually there's going to be too many unemployed. And if you look at the unemployment rate over the past few years, it has been ticking up bit by bit by bit, which is, of course, what Jerome Powell wanted in order to get workers inflation to come down a little bit. So basically, they're not getting paid as highly, which they still pretty are, which is a good thing.
What we've seen, by the way, in the data is not so much firing; it's a lack of hiring. Over time, that creates saps the strength of the labor market if you're not replacing those people who leave, so the total employment level would fall. I think the uncertainty may be a major role here. And I also think that we've heard a lot of stories about small businesses, the ones who are importing stuff, the ones who take the imported stuff and make other stuff out of it, small manufacturers, they have been potentially hurt by this. Before any of the potential positives that are hoped for by the administration, the bringing back or the reshoring, before that has any effect. I think the key here, again, is this stability, which would people say, okay, I know what the tariffs are going to be, I know what the taxing is going to be, that will say, okay, I get the situation, now I can right-size my job, my employment, which may be higher, maybe lower, maybe the same. I would just point out, though, that it was the weakness in the job market. People debate the 50 basis point cut before the election. It was the weakness in the job market that was cited repeatedly by the Fed as to why they cut 50. They did so in a very different inflation environment than the one we have right now. And there are the probabilities now. I guess they're a little bit higher for October, a little bit higher for December.
Why was it a really different inflation environment?
Now, the reason he's asking this is if you go over to inflation or CPI from Trading Economics. There we go. And we go right here and we go to let's just go right here. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit. The inflation environment was 2.4%. In fact, when he cut, it was 2.6%. Right now, it's 2.4, and we got as low as 2.3, which is why we should be cutting right now. He is afraid of what tariffs have done to the inflation. We've seen so far, we haven't seen any crazy spikes since all this inflation stuff went, especially because a lot of that stuff got front-loaded, but all that stuff's out the door now. Right, so it's not too much of a different inflationary environment, which is why everybody is very critical of the Fed right now, except for the very pro-institutionalist. Pro-institutionalist, they understand that institutions have a lot of flaws, but they don't want to necessarily fix those flaws in a meaningful way, because the people who want to fix them, like Trump, they believe they will take a chainsaw instead of a scalpel, which is correct to some degree, right? But again, I'd rather just take a chainsaw to it because it's that badly corroded and corrupted inside. We really need to gut it out, everything, and then start over, which would be chaotic for the markets, as you guys might imagine, right? Okay, we'll go back to the video now.
Because you had declining inflation back then.
No, you didn't. It went up. It went up that month.
And come on. You had stagnant inflation back then, exactly like we have now. The sticky last mile. Really, nothing has changed except for the way the Fed talks about it. It really hasn't changed much, Steve. If you look at the core numbers on PC, the core numbers on a lot of the data points, they're kind of stuck between 2.5% and 3.1%. Really, nothing has changed on that front. There has been some uncertainty, but whether you look at things in the past like long-term capital, the credit crisis, uncertainty, exogenous issues always creep up, and the Fed seems to be able to determine policy before they happen. I'm not sure why tariffs are so damn different.
Rick, just real quick, you have across the board at least 10% increase in imports, right? and that will mathematically
10% what? Wait, I didn't pick that up. 10% what?
An at least across the board 10% tariff likely to be put on imports. So that's going to have some mathematical effect.
Right. And you're making that the center of your worry bead universe, although it's what? Imports 11% of the economy. Once again, I will stress, we are overplaying the uncertainty Trump tariff card. And Trump's overplaying that he's not more hyperbole than fact on how rigid this is going to be.
What is it?
And both of these are going to meet. What is what? I think, we just made new all-time highs in stocks. I don't know. I think things are pretty darn good.
There you go. Now, again, as they're having all those arguments, I think that guy right there, he made a fair point. Remember, Trump has not let these tariffs really linger on for a long period of time. There has been like a lot of, yeah, we're going after you. Oh, we're going to cool it off. We're going after you. All right, let's make a deal. Oh, we're going after you. And these actually, hold on. Let me see. Let me go over here to Google. Trump 90-day announces 90-day tariff pause. Let's see. This is Newsweek. Let's see. I wish I knew the exact day it happened. Let me go over to GPT here. When did Trump announce 90-day tariff pause? Oh, and thanks, Mo. CPI is on the 15th of July. And hey, Puma, nothing really big news. It's just like a bunch of little things that happened, say like the jobs, like an ADP jobs report, that kind of signaled we may be having rate cuts sooner than expected. And that kind of gave the market like a whoa type of thing. So you have the S&P at new highs, NASDAQ getting close, and Bitcoin close to all-time highs as well. Okay, here we go. On April 2nd, Liberation Day. On April 9th, 7 days later, 90-day pause announced, okay? That, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I know there's some tariffs still out there, but it's not as drastic as how they were saying it, right? Okay, now, this is the last little piece, and this is kind of actually answering some of your question, Puma. And Steve, definitely get a dog. It's just, no, the dog will keep you at home many more. You are losing freedom when you get a dog, right? But this one's about tariffs unlikely to cause as much consumer disruption as feared. And again, 7 days. It was a crazy 7 days, but it was only 7 days there. Yeah, so let's watch this one, and then we'll go back to Bitcoin here. Bitcoin got rejected. It did not break out here. We're going to still have to see. Hopefully we can make a move there, but we have not had that big breakout just yet.
For markets to digest between the president's mega bill making its way through Congress and then this breaking news of a trade deal with Vietnam. Joining us here at Post 9 is PNC Asset Management Chief Investment Strategist Young-Yu Ma. It's great to see you again. Just on the Vietnam trade deal that was just announced. So it sounds like first of all, headline is they made a trade deal. And
sure did.
20% tariffs, which President Trump says Vietnam will pay coming into our market, though that could be a headache for some of the importers like retailers, and then no tariffs going into their market. Stocks have been, moving up all morning long. Do you think are you surprised there's not a bigger reaction?
Thanks, here. It's great to be here. It is a mixed bag because the tariffs are probably a bit higher than market participants would like to see them. But it's also the case that the market does want to see deals happening. We want to see progress on this. And so this is a step in the right direction. I think there's probably going to be a bit of pause to see what the next deals might come before the July 9th deadline is, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on that as well. So I think it's a mixed picture if we're looking at what is coming out of this trade deal. 20% is probably not where we'd like to see the remainder of the deals land, but each country is probably an individual case as well.
Well, on that note, though, if even in a very smooth, announced over this weekend type way, if by this time next week it was 20% or even 15% for most of the other countries, even those bigger economies, would that be very bearish, even if it was smoothly reached, that end goal?
Well, I do think that the administration wants to apply pressure, and then what the administration probably had as a takeaway from Liberation Day was that doing too much at once is more destabilizing than beneficial, and really reaching that point of.
That was obvious that you shouldn't be attacking the whole world at once on tariffs. I said that at the time. They should have already known that, but they wanted to send a big signal that they were serious, and it did that signal, which I think helped them in other ways, right?
Where's stabilization in terms of the tariff picture?
Exactly.
So
AI3.
20% across the board, I think that's still on the high side. I think that would start to invoke concerns of, is this going to cause more of a slowdown in consumer spending than is desirable? So that's a higher level than I think the markets are hoping for at this point.
Although one spin is that it's better than I looked it up, 46%, which was originally announced on Vietnam.
And what was Cambodia next door was like 95.
Yeah, very high. So it's better than that, ultimately, I guess. And the other thing is, the transshipping detail, which is 40% tariffs, that's a direct hit, I think, to China, which is also interesting. The clarity, though, I feel, for markets. And the other thing that you could say is that, look, at a time where we're really worried about the deficit, we're watching the big, beautiful bill, it's bond bullish, ultimately, if it's going to bring in more revenue long term, isn't it?
Well, there's a balancing act at play here, right? Because the tariffs are going to bring in revenue. They are going to, in some instances, raise prices. I mean, the interesting thing is we haven't seen a great deal of pass-through at this point. And if we think back to 2021 and 2022, when there were really strong inflationary pressures, you saw pretty quick and strong pass-through. So my sense is that not as much as anticipated or previously feared in terms of tariffs is actually going to be passed through to end consumers. So I don't think it's going to create as much disruption. But still, if we get rates that are higher than, the 10-15% that the market's hoping for, I do think that does give a bit of pause in the market to see how well consumers hold up with that.
All right, nice and easy right there. And of course, America has been taking in a lot of money from tariffs. It has just skyrocketed because of all this, which means that's basically a tax on all the corporations we've been doing. And if you think about it, if you do want to tax corporations, you might as well tax corporations for not having jobs in America rather than just taxing them for making goods and services. What I find really interesting about all this stuff though right now is, how do I even explain this? Like, there's so many moving parts to this economy going in different directions. We have markets hitting all-time highs. We have more job losses happening right now. We have interest rates remaining high. We have the Fed doing nothing and kind of just staying calm, staying stagnant, if you will. Maybe stagnation is probably the better word for that. And then we also have inflation coming down right now. So, in theory, the Fed will eventually catch on to that and start to cut rates. But the Fed right now is definitely prioritizing the market. Not even the market. How do I explain this? Jerome Powell just doesn't want to fuck up twice in his career. He already fucked up once with transitory, right? In that is his legacy so far. But if he's able to navigate this, maybe people forget about the transitory side and they talk about more about how he saved the economy and saved inflation. Which again, will not be true, but it's what people are going to be saying. And I think after he saw how, not Jerome Powell, Joe Biden's legacy got so tarnished by the mental decline, that crazy debate with Donald Trump. And I remember I was watching it on a train coming back from Seattle. And I was like, oh my God, Joe Biden, what the fuck is happening to you? I was on a train with maybe like, the whole car maybe had like 10 people. I'm talking about a big car with double decker, right? And I was in there like, what the fuck, talking to myself. The security guard drives by or walks by and he's like, what's going on? I was like, look at this Biden-Trump debate. And I rewound it to that point where Joe Biden was like stuttering a lot. And he's like, holy shit, that guy's lost it. And I was like, yeah. He doesn't want his legacy to be remembered like that. Again, you go to his Wikipedia page, it's still okay right now with a nasty section on transitory, but perhaps he can finish off strong, and that could help him out in the long term. Once you're older, people start thinking about that stuff. I don't think about my legacy too much because even when I'm dead, all these YouTube videos are going to be on, all these streams are going to be on. People could see me for decades, decades after I'm gone. Then eventually it'll go down. But I'm hoping what I can do is pass off this YouTube channel to another generation when I'm dead or something like that, and they can keep on making content. It just kind of transitions and transitions and transitions. But maybe I'll make those moves when I'm like 60 years old. I start to have like younger guests on. I'm like, hey, you're on the channel. The contract says you just can't delete my old videos, my old tutorials, because by then I'm gonna have like thousands of tutorials on this channel, right? Once I eventually move to Thailand, which is taking forever, but what do you call it? Eventually, right? All right, so as far as Bitcoin's concerned right now, we have started to stagnate over the past couple hours. Things are still looking good in the long term, but we are cooling off a little bit. On the weekly charts, what we're really trying to do is just break above this $111,000 for the week, and things at this point still seem like we can do it. I am not going long right now and doing anything crazy bullish. What I'm doing is dollar cost averaging, and you can see above my head right here, there's a bunch of green on today, like, you know, Floki's up 12%, Pepe's up 10%, Shiba's up 6%, Boom is Book of Meme is up 15%. When we go and stream later on at 4 o'clock today, we are still going to be making a whole new portfolio, and we're only going to be finding those tokens that are below $800 million market cap, which means we can basically start at Bitcoin Cash and go all the way down as far as we want to go. World Liberty Financial here is now at $2.3 billion. I'm not entirely sure how this works because there's just random outliers. If there's a random outlier like that, I just don't believe it for now. I think that's just what I'm choosing to do, is not believe it for now. But we'll have the opportunity to go through all of these tokens tonight, and it'll be more of a grind video. I don't think there'll probably be as many viewers as there is now, unless Bitcoin's doing some crazy stuff. But what will have happen is just a great time for us to go over some tokens, find some stuff that we like, go check out the website, see if we like it or not, see how they performed over the last few months, pull up a chart, and we'll probably spend about 5 minutes per token for about an hour and a half, and we'll have a lot of good fun with that, and then we'll kind of see what's happening, right? And so far, again, with our portfolio that we bought 2 weeks ago, we're up $52, or we're up 5.23%, which I think is actually pretty good. Now, it won't always be like that. Maybe we'll be down a little bit, stuff like that. Maybe if Bitcoin just breaks out, we won't be down for that long. But we'll see, like, hey, if we put $1,000 into a small portfolio, because I think a lot of people have $1,000, maybe you do have $500. You just, you know, instead of up 25, $52, you're up like $26, something like that, right? As long as we can do that, you guys can visually see what the heck would happen if I just decided to buy and hold in a bull market instead of trying to just trade and stuff like that. Because once you start to understand how buying and holding works, then you can start doing, oh, what if I just buy and hold with a 2x leverage or a 3x leverage, and make sure that I just don't go over leveraging myself, and make sure that you know, I don't get liquidated or something like that, right? Which I think if you're doing like regular tokens that aren't too volatile, you can easily make some good money there. Imagine if this was a 2x portfolio, we'd be up $100. But again, there's some fees involved and stuff like that. But again, for another time. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hop off. I'm going to go take Loki for a little bit of an outside stroll, because I do have a meeting from 2 o'clock to 3:30 basically, that I'm streaming again at 4, and we'll go from 4 to 5 or 4 to 6, depending on how long this takes, right, for all the new portfolio and things like that. And we're just going to chill. This cigar I've been smoking for about an hour with you guys, and you can see it's about a third of the way done. This thing takes some time to smoke, so I'm going to put it out for now, and I will relight it up in a little bit. But I enjoyed talking with you guys today. I'm going to start doing more of these impromptu streams. My internet worked flawlessly today, so I'm going to try again to put out a lot of videos. And then what I'm going to do is, if I keep putting out a lot of videos, because I'm using my upload for that, right? And then I notice that Xfinity is throttling my upload speed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to call them and see, like, hey, I'm using this for work and you guys are being freaking dipshits. Can you stop? You know? And then we'll see if they do stop it or not, because it is a very annoying thing. Like right now, if I go over to Ookla, you guys saw, as this is doing its little test thing right now, you guys, so I can show you guys what it was yesterday, a few days ago now, excuse me. Verify your channel, or go to your channel, post. Yeah, my download speed was 1,000. My upload speed was 0.67. Normally my upload speed is like 40s, 45s. Right now it's showing up as 33, and that's because there's also the strain of it pushing out like 2K content to you guys right now. But my download speed right now, is 1500 right now. All right, so they're a little inconsistent, but I don't think we've had an issue like that in a while. So we'll have to see how it goes. So I will see you guys a little bit later on tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. If Loki was here, I'd give him another treat, but I believe he's playing outside in the backyard having a blast. So I'm going to go join him, throw him the ball that he just got, his new toy, and then I have to go get him some treats later on tonight after the stream is over. Hopefully that'll be good. As far as Friday, I will not be streaming on the 4th of July. If I do, it'll be in the morning time around 10 o'clock, so get ready if I do. That'll be